To all who come to this happy podcast, welcome. This is Planning the Magic, where we discuss all things Disney vacation planning. I'm Jake.
And I'm Alma, and in today's episode, we're talking all about Adventures by Disney.
Adventures by Disney is really a unique product in the Disney vacation space, I guess you could say. It's not a theme park. There's no characters, but it's still a really, really cool and unique product that they have.
Yes, that's true. And a lot of people don't know about it because, it's one of those products that Disney doesn't market out there a lot. So when we talk about Adventures by Disney, most people don't really know it exists. And probably the most popular thing you're seeing that is maybe you don't even know it's Adventures by Disney is the trip around the world.
Yeah.
To visit all the Disney parks around the world, which is like a bucket list item I know it is for
I was just
me.
looking at the website earlier and stumbled on that, and I'm like, oh, that is definitely a goal right there. It's pricey. it's it's going to take a while to
Yeah.
save up for that.
It only starts at about $100,000 a
Yeah,
person,
no big
but
deal. Yeah. But that's not to scare you off from the
well,
rest of them. A lot of them are a lot more reasonably priced. That's a huge epic private adventure around the world. So they have some really, really cool product offerings. So what is Adventures by Disney? Because you've been on a ABD trip.
I have, yeah. Adventures by Disney is sort of Disney's way to keep you in the Disney bubble while safely visiting the other parts of the world that you want to see. I guess the general overview, if you look at it, it's almost like a group tour adventure, but it's more than that. So the trip I went on was Costa Rica, which is one of their most popular trips, and it's actually, I think, one of the most affordable out of all of the Adventures by Disney trips, from what I'm looking at. And Costa Rica is, it's a fun place to visit, but doing all the things that they had us do on the Adventures by Disney trip, like rafting, zip lining, so all of these fun adventures, it was a different level because we knew we were in the safety of the Disney bubble, if that makes
Yeah,
any
no, I
sense.
mean that's perfect way to describe it. I think it's you think about some of these kind of classic guided tours, and I know there's some really popular ones, kind of the luxury like Adventures by Colette, or even kind of a little lower end like the G Adventures type of guided tour groups. But then you add that Disney level on top of it, the Disney difference they like to call it, where you really just kind of get that extra attention to detail and level of service that you'd find at any of the Disney parks or vacation resorts.
Yes, and that a level of detail is just sprinkled through everything on your Adventures by Disney trip. So, I mean, the price for the trips look a little, they're on the more costly side. You said it was pretty affordable. When you think of everything that's involved, it is. But when you're looking at it just as an overview, it does look pretty costly. But they're including all of your travel in between. So you're moving in between cities. Sometimes you're taking flights in between places. So that's all taken care of. All your gratuities, certain places where you maybe need to have some change to use the washroom, they have that for you. So there's always, like, every little piece is taken care of. So when you're moving from one place to another, you put your bags out and they have your bags ready for you. Basically, all you have to do is be present. So they have everything else in between taken care of.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like once you're on the trip, there's really not much you have to think about after that. There's everything's included aside from maybe a couple meals here or there when you're touring a city, they might say on your own for lunch, but breakfast and dinner and all that's with the group, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's some parts where you could, like where you have some alone time, some free time on your own. So there is that time to explore. And like some questions I get a lot about Adventures by Disney is if you usually you have two selections of which sort of activity you want to do for the day. There's maybe more of an adventurous one and maybe a more laid back one, and you can choose either of those to go on, but you can also choose to stick back at the resort if maybe you're not feeling it for the day. So you do have that option. You don't have to go on everything, but I mean, why not?
Yeah, I mean, you pay that money, you might as well go enjoy it, right? But,
Yeah,
yeah. So, I think let's go over some of the fun destinations they have, because you can literally go just about anywhere around the world with Disney, which is really cool.
absolutely. I just want to backtrack for one
Yeah.
second, if you don't mind. Something else that is included with Adventures by Disney that I didn't know before I went on my trip is that the guides, they're taking pictures throughout your whole trip. So at the end of the trip, we had thousands of photos of, well, everybody on the trip, but also that's a good opportunity to get, they get photos of your family enjoying the experiences. Like you don't even see them taking pictures of you. And at the end, you have those awesome
You get those great
memories. So
candids,
that's,
right?
I mean, yeah,
Well, I think then that's maybe a better time to transition into talking about the guides, because that is, I mean, every tour group is gonna have their guides, but Adventures by Disney really focuses on the guides kind of being that difference maker.
absolutely. So they'll have typically two guides. So one will be local to the area. So they'll know, they're a cultural representative. So they know everything there is to know about the area, and you learn so much. And they also speak the language. So if there's any barriers there, they're there for that. But there's also the Disney guide, which is, I mean, they work together seamlessly and they're just so wonderful and they take care of everything, and you really get to know them throughout your trip.
Yeah, it really seems like they just kind of become an extension of your family almost while you're on the trip.
Yeah, definitely.
Nice. Okay, so I mean, I'm thinking about some of the fun places I'd want to go on Adventures by Disney. Costa Rica's pretty high on the list. I think that would be amazing, and I think probably a great starter if you're looking at trying to do a tour like this for families. There's the excitement of doing the zip lining and the rafting, and do you see some cool animals in Costa Rica too? I imagine like some birds and
Oh my goodness, yes. One of the adventures was this boat tour where we got to see a bunch of different animals, and our guide, our local guide, he was just so quick to spot like even the smallest thing in the jungle there. So we saw sloths and monkeys and
you
like
saw my spirit
all
animal, the
different types of
sloth.
things. So the sloth, yeah, he moved as fast as you did.
I was trying to think of the name of the sloth from Zootopia, but
Yeah, what's his
Flash.
name?
Is that right?
It's not Flash, is
Flash,
it?
Flash, 100-yard dash. Is that what Nick Wilde calls him?
You got me.
Yeah.
You
All right.
stumped me. I
Totally
have
went off. I
no
just
idea.
totally brain froze there. Just locked up. Well, that sounds really cool. What are some other places that you'd want to go to? Some of the other fun Adventures by Disney destinations.
I mean, I have a few bucket list trips that I want to take my family on. Italy is high on that list. Also China. So, sorts of interesting places that maybe I wouldn't know how to piece together an itinerary on my own. It's just all taken care of with Adventures by Disney. So those sort of bucket list trips I want to do with Adventures by Disney, if that makes
Oh
any
yeah.
sense to you. Uh, I don't feel I don't feel confident going on my own. I would like to have somebody guide me through it.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's one of the great things about just guided tours in general, but especially with Adventures by Disney is there are some places around the world that'd be really cool to go to, but just feel a little overwhelming, even for those of us that are travel professionals that just feel like it'd be way too much to, you just feel overwhelmed when you get there. But having a local guide and the Adventures by Disney guide taking you around and showing you and getting you all those kind of behind the scenes access points that they have, and showing you all around. I think that's the perfect way to get to some of those kind of more exotic or remote destinations, like an African safari. That's one high on my list.
True, and you mentioned those, sort of backstage access points, those really popular attractions that, if you maybe wanted to visit while you were in that destination, you have like a VIP access to those places. So you're going in, a separate door, you're going around the line. You're not waiting with the general public for those attractions. You're getting right in
It's your
there.
lightning
So
lane, right?
that's that yeah.
It's like you got Genie Plus
You're
built right in for you.
That's right. You're on an Adventures by Disney. You're getting that fast pass.
So, I mean, there's a few different types of Adventures by Disney tours. There's, kind of the standard guided tour, right? And then they also have the river cruises in Europe through like the Danube and the Seine, uh, that are still Adventures by Disney, but they basically charter out the whole river cruise ship. And so it's just you on the ship. And then there's those Nat Geo expeditions too, National Geographic expeditions, that are kind of a sister or adjacent, but also kind of co-branded with Adventures by Disney. And I, fortunately, am actually going to Japan on a Nat Geo expedition this fall, and I'm really, really looking forward to that.
Yeah, that's amazing. I can't wait to hear the recap on that one. Those Speaking of those expedition sort of cruises, they have I learned a lot about the Antarctica expedition cruise, which was really interesting. And no two of those expedition cruises are the same because of the changes in the landscape. So they can't always go to the same spot. So I mean, they're so unique in the experiences that they provide, especially one of those sort of expedition cruises. You're going to places that not a lot of people get to go to. So Adventures by Disney is really good at putting those pieces together.
Yeah, and I mean, you mentioned Antarctica. It's just goes to show they are on all seven continents. You can get literally just about anywhere in the world on Adventures by Disney trip, which is really cool.
Okay, so we're talking about Adventures by Disney and how it sounds so amazing for us as adults. What about those kids? Adventures by Disney guides call them junior adventurers. So what do they do that's different for the
Well, it's
kids?
Disney, right? So they're
Why would my kid?
it's Disney's.
Why would my kid want
Yeah,
to
right.
go?
Well, I mean, other than just the name, it's having Disney in the name. They really are a family focused company that knows how to cater to all age groups, and so every stop along the way of these Adventures by Disney journeys really have something for everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you'll see when you start looking into Adventures by Disney, there is a minimum age for or a recommended age for some of these adventures, and I want to say the lowest age is probably 4. So, I mean, they probably know that you don't want to have your baby trekking around with you on all these
You're not
adventures, so
ziplining
they
in Costa
do
Rica
give
with a
you a
baby on your
minimum.
front.
Yeah, I mean, doesn't sound safe, but I could see it probably happening. But yeah, they do have lots of stuff for those junior adventurers, and there's opportunities throughout each of these itineraries where they separate the junior adventurers from the adults. So the adults get to do their own activity or dinner or quiet dinner, and one of the guides will take the junior adventurers and they'll go do something else, like a cooking class or something fun for them. So they always have something to do for those junior adventurers, which I think is really amazing. So, a lot of the things are done together as a family, but then sometimes you get your own independent time, which is awesome.
Yeah, that's really nice on a trip like that. That the kids really kind of get their own focus too. It's not just being dragged along by mom and dad to some random part of the world that they wanted to go to, but it's something that they really get to enjoy and is special for them as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
So let's just pull up a couple trips here and go through the itineraries to kind of give people an idea of what a trip would look like. So we can maybe do something really exotic, and then maybe something a little closer to home to kind of start to ease your way into it.
Yeah. Yeah, well, now that you mention that, there is some US and Canada sort of mini expeditions, per se, if you wanna call them that. Small tours that you can do, not too far away, so if you want a little taste of Adventures by Disney, you can do that as well. So, I think a good one to highlight on that one is the add-on for California,
Yeah, it's
Disneyland.
just, a 3-night quick trip that gets you into Disneyland for a couple days and then tours around. You go to the Disney Studios and enjoy some of the Southern California highlights. So that's a really quick just taste of Adventures by Disney.
Yeah, there's a mix of some tours in the parks, outside of the parks, some hosted dinners. You learn a lot of things throughout, but that's a good way to dip your toes, per se, into the Adventures by Disney bubble.
Yeah, another couple that are really nice close to home that at least appeal to me are, there's one going around Montana and Wyoming. So you get the Yellowstone and Jackson and Tetons and everything. And so you spend quite a few time like horseback riding and fly fishing in Yellowstone, and then enjoying all the like geysers and natural features. So I think that'd be a great one. And then there's one around New England too, especially in the fall time. They do, I think, like a fall foliage around New England that would be a lot of fun to do, but still close to home where you're not really having to get too adventurous if it's not your cup of tea.
Yeah, or you could come visit us in Canada, the Canadian Rockies, Calgary, Banff. You get to go to Lake Louise and do all the highlights
So beautiful up
there.
there too.
So
I love it.
that's a really good, so
It's actually where
beautiful.
we had our honeymoon in Banff. We just peeled to us, so
Did
we
you?
drove up there and enjoyed that. It was gorgeous.
Fun
Fun
fact.
fact: the more you know.
Fun fact. And the more you know. Speaking of Banff, not to veer off too far, there's this restaurant there called the Grizzly House, and it's like a fondue place, but they have a unique assortment of meats. If are adventurous and want to try something new, you know,
You had me at
that would
fondue.
be a cool place to visit. I mean, there's some normal, non-unique meats. I don't want to say the name of the meats. I don't want to offend anybody, but 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 if you're adventurous, I mean, head over there at Grizzly
Yeah,
House.
nice.
Uh, that's my
All
side
right,
note of the
I like
episode.
it.
All right, so we have some local sort of little mini adventures that we talked about. What about something a little more unique, something a little further away?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of mentioned it earlier, but I think Adventures by Disney is a great way to do an African safari. I think that's a really, really uh, good way to get down there. It's something that's a very unique and exotic. It kind of checks all those boxes, but then you still get that Disney feel and that Disney bubble, and you spend 10 nights going through South Africa and going around the game reserves and seeing all those amazing animals that you'd want to see on an African safari.
Yeah, and I know we talk about the Disney bubble a lot. What does that kind of what does that kind of mean to you in the sense of Adventures by
I mean,
Disney?
for me, I think my best understanding, having not been on one, but it's that really kind of have that extra level of safety and care for the whole family and the attention to detail that Disney is so well known for. And so, especially in places like Africa, where it's you're having to worry about those elephants and jaguars in the middle of the night. I know that Disney is going to do it right, and they're going to do everything they possibly can to make sure that everyone has the most fantastic trip while still staying safe.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm a little bit of a nervous wreck. So I'm that person that checks the roller coaster buckles 3 times over before the roller coaster takes off. And I won't be visiting those parking lot carnivals. So I asked a lot of questions on my Adventures by Disney trip, especially regarding safety. When you look at some of these things, I mean, the zip lining was very, very high up. I have never been on a zip line like that before. So I was comforted by the fact that, Disney representatives themselves come to each of these destinations and they vet each of these activities, and they're checking for safety. I believe on a yearly basis. Correct me if
I
I'm
believe you're
wrong.
right.
Out
Yep.
there, yeah. So they're vetting the safety of these activities, and also not just the safety, but how they treat their guests, and that it's up to par with Disney. So that's kind of what I'm thinking when we're in the Disney bubble, is that, they have all those things checked off that you don't have to worry about a thing.
Yeah, I mean, Disney, for good reason, is so protective of their brand. If they're going to put their name on something, they're going to make sure that it is the highest quality. So they definitely do their due diligence and their research, and make sure that all those things that you would be worried about, is taking your kids on a trip like that, that that's not something you have to worry about. They've already taken care of that and make sure that that box has been checked for you.
So, you talked about one of the longer sort of experiences, the safari. I did touch base, said China was on my list of adventures by Disney to go on. So let's overview that itinerary a little bit. It's 12 days, 11 nights, so it's a big one. You're flying in between different places. So, like I said before, all those little pieces are taken care of, all your transportation and everything. In this one in particularly, you get to visit Hong Kong Disneyland and Shanghai Disneyland, which is, you know, if visiting all the Disney parks is on your bucket list, this is a good way to take care
Yeah.
of it. And then, of course, you get to go to the Great Wall, and there's like a panda. You visit pandas, and I just mean it's an amazing looking experience. So, yeah, that one's on my bucket list for sure.
So I think now's kind of a good time to talk about uh, how to choose where to go, and or at least one of the things I like to talk to families about is, um, I don't know where my daughter came up with the term, or if she created it herself, but she calls it her buck kid list, and all the places she wants to go as
That's cute.
while she's a kid. And I think that going through just the Adventures by Disney website with your kids would be a really fun way to kind of almost get some of those buck kid list items that your kids want to do before they grow, are out of the house and still traveling with you. And I think that's would be a fun way to really start kind of planning out some things in the future, and getting some ideas for, okay, in a year or two, maybe this is what we want to do, and starting to get that booked and planned out.
Yeah, that's a great idea. I love that buck kid list.
I'm going to trademark that.
And
Yeah.
coin that term now. Yeah, that's awesome. And then, if you're let's say you're a Disney cruiser, we're talking about those little Adventures by Disney experiences, those 3-day experiences. Those are something you can add onto your Disney cruise as well. So, I mean, if you're going to Alaska, you can add a little Adventures by Disney experience to your Alaska trip. And those guides are going to be on your cruise with you. So, um, you can speak with them, get to know them, and they'll have different things for you to do there. And then when you're off the ship, you're going to be doing those Adventures by Disney experiences. So I think that's a good way to ease into Adventures by Disney, if you're starting off as maybe a Disney cruiser.
Yeah, I think that's a perfect pairing. And they do have several of those kind of shorter excursions, 3, 4 nights, or adventure trips that are purposely scheduled to start or end, on either side of a cruise. So, like, I know I'm doing a cruise next month, out of that leaves from Copenhagen, and they have one that's 3 nights before. So it's 3 days around Denmark and Copenhagen, and then just perfectly conveniently lines up with, you can just get right on the ship after that. So it's they make it.
Right. Are you considering adding a little
I
ABD
wish we had,
to your
I
cruise?
didn't look at my schedule close enough when we were planning our trip and booked our flights, and so it's not going to quite be able to. I'm going to get there like a day too late. If we were to go in a day earlier, I absolutely would add it on
Darn.
next
Next
time.
time.
I think the other thing worth mentioning about Adventures by Disney too is that they do have some adult exclusive trips. So we keep talking about all the things for families,
True.
but if you're looking for something that's, you still want that Disney experience, but maybe your kids aren't ready to go, and you can, leave them with family, with grandma and grandpa or something, uh, or whatever, if you just want to do an adult only trip, maybe anniversary or something, they do have those options. and with activities that I think are geared a little bit more towards just the adults in the group.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, uh, like we said before, there's things for everybody, but if you prefer a trip with just adults, there's that option too. And also, I mean, if you're skeptical about going in a group, I mean, if that's a concern for you, they do have private adventures as well that you can arrange. You can have up to 10 people, 10 to 12 people, I believe. You can arrange a private Adventures by Disney experience, but I would encourage you to go in the group because you do meet a lot of new people, and everybody is friends by the end. So, I mean, it's fun to experience things with other people. So, I think being open to that.
Oh yeah, for sure. I think you can really make some really unique connections by touring with other people that maybe you didn't know before, but you become best friends over the course of a Costa Rica trip or a African safari.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to talk quickly about the alternatives you have for activities because I know we were talking about our Costa Rica trip. It was, we are doing river rafting. What if you're not really into river rafting? What if that really scares you? Although the Disney bubble, you have nothing to worry about. Um, there's an option specifically for that rafting one. There was an option to go on a gentle boat ride was the other option. So, you don't have to go on those excursions that maybe scare you. There's always a lighter option.
Or if the zip lining is not your thing, a little scared of heights, I know I sometimes struggle with that myself.
Right.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, they have other options for you there.
Yeah, and that zip lining one was like, you can't back out. So once you do the first zip line, you're in it. There's 7 in
Oh, so it's like a whole
total.
trail
So
of
they're
them.
like,
Yeah,
once you yeah, they're like, once you do your first one, you can't back out. There's no way out. So you gotta commit. And yeah, I was shaking
were
at the
you?
end.
Wow,
Yeah. I think I have a little short I'll share with you, a little clip of me screaming into the distance. Just my voice fading.
as Alma disappears far off into the distance. Yeah,
As I disappear into the jungle. I want to touch base on the experience of the adventure guides just one more time because I think we failed to mention that it starts as soon, your experience starts as soon as you land in the airport. So before you leave, you're going to get a orange sort of tag for your luggage and you're going to wrap it around your luggage. So by the time you get off that airplane, your adventure guide already has your luggage and is waiting for you, ready to go. So you just have to look for that friendly face, and they'll have the Adventures by Disney sign, and they'll have your luggage with them, and you're off to a great start. So I think the attention to detail is above all else with Adventures by
yeah,
Disney.
yeah. I mean, I think that's probably the number one selling point. Beyond just the Disney name, right? Is the Disney service that you're going to get with it. Well, I think that just about does it for this one. I know I'm ready to go book an Adventures by Disney trip.
So I know what holds me back. Like we really want to go on Adventures by Disney trip. There's 5 of us, so when you're looking at Adventures by Disney trip, you're looking at a cost per person. And some of these sort of bucket list trips that I want to go on they start at about $12,000 a person US, which is quite a big chunk in exchange rates for us
It's
Canadians.
still a big
So
chunk for
it's
us in the
a,
US.
yeah, yeah, it's a house deposit or a car purchase. So, I mean, it's not a low cost thing. So, it definitely, you know, you want to pick the right one. You're gonna have to save some money, and that kind of what takes a little bit longer to get these Adventures by Disney trips, on the books per se.
Yeah, and I mean they really
For
can be
me
a
personally,
bucket list trip for us parents too. That's may just kind of be a one and done thing that we really save up for and to make it happen. But I really think it's an experience that you will never regret going on.
absolutely. And I mean, we say that, those sort of cost things are kind of what holds you back sometimes. But if you, if you think about it, remember that around the world trip that we're
Yeah,
talking about at the beginning of the episode? That's about $100,000 per person. I mean, it's epic. You're going around the world on an
worth
airplane,
every
visiting all
penny,
the Disney
right?
parks. It's an epic trip. That that specific trip last time it went on sale sold out before even reaching the general public. So Adventures by Disney is gonna give priority to it's almost like a castaway club. So they're gonna give priority to you to book in advance if you've been on an Adventures by Disney trip before, and then it's gonna give priority to like DVC members and Disney Cruise Line castaway members. So I mean, it's going to hit all those people before it even gets released to the general public. And last time that Around the World trip got released to general public and it sorry, it never even made it
Yeah.
there. So
Yeah, I mean, they are
so us
popular, that's for sure.
yeah. So if you have the budget for it, I mean Adventures by Disney is definitely the way to go.
Well, and I know just getting back to you're talking about pricing, a little bit for those kind of some of those epic trips like China or Safari. But I know with some of them, they are a lot more reasonably priced. You're looking at about 3,500 per person typically for some of the kind of shorter or even like the Costa Rica ones. Um, which I know for me sometimes still is a little sticker shock when I see that. It's, you start doing the math in your head, multiplying by how many people are in your family, right? But when I compare it to some of the longer cruises, it's I really feel like it's on par price wise with European cruise, for example, or now Alaska cruise, where you're kind of still getting those destination experiences as opposed to just a Caribbean cruise. But I think it's really on par price wise with some of those.
I agree. I agree. And Costa Rica is a good example of that because you experience so much in a 7-day trip. And yeah, that price starts at about 3 to 3,500 a person.
And for everything you're getting, including the transportation and the hotels and the meals, and when you start breaking it down, the per day costs of everything you're getting, it really is pretty reasonably priced, actually.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I think that just about does it for this episode. I know I'm ready to book an Adventures by Disney trip now if I wasn't already before.
I have oh, this made it a little bit worse for me. Dreaming of my next Adventures by Disney trip.
Well, make sure you like and subscribe everywhere you find podcasts. We're on YouTube and TikTok and Instagram, and we also have a Facebook group that you can join to where we're talking about all things Disney vacation planning.
Yeah, so we hope to see you guys in there. Of course, if you have any questions, come visit us in our Facebook group and we'll see you next time.
See you real soon.